I'm Jade Dagher, and we're going to see how we used Odoo to revamp a real estate company. So I'm going to brief you a little bit about our scope and how we got there. So we are technically specialized in small to medium businesses, and we always try to find some creative ways to get them more productive. So after COVID, as you know, all people started working on different ways. So we started moving into finding new solutions, and this is where we discovered Odoo, and we moved into implementing it in different small companies and medium ones. So our usual scope is summarized here. So what we usually do is to assess the business continuously on all the different aspects. So we create a strategic plan. We do the continuous recruitment, training, and development, especially for the sales departments and most commonly in real estate and insurance companies. And then we update the CRM and workflow because most of the times this is where the gap is. Then we synchronize with the marketing. We do the follow-up on the KPIs and the monitoring, and the cycle goes over and over again. So definitely we do this in alliance with all the related parties. So in the case we're going to discuss, the problems were as follows. So it was a real estate company, and it was going through a big crisis in Lebanon due to the currency fluctuation and the problem that happened in the country. There were a team of 5 trying to expand, but it wasn't really happening. So it wasn't easy to find the right people in the situation. They were using technically a combination between Google Forms, Excel, and an old big ERP. I won't name it. I will tell you later on. A website was showcasing the properties, but there were a lot of problems because sometimes the price would change on a daily basis because of the currency fluctuation. That's one part. The second part is whenever you have many people trying to buy from the website or from the phone calls, so sometimes many people would book the same property simultaneously, and that was a big issue. And sometimes they would put a deposit and end up fighting for it. And also, the sales process was not well organized. Actually, it was, for example, in a big crisis, and you had call center people, very young ladies, answering the phone call, and the process wasn't the best way structured. So the solution was in bullet points. First, to use Odoo Studio for 1 week to launch it fast. And thanks to Askatech, who were the gold partners in that, Shadi. So who could really customize it in no time because the client was very eager to move very, very fast and not to wait until the full implementation was ready. So Odoo Studio was like a big game changer. And then the development was done with Askatech, taking into consideration all the elements needed. And it wasn't a very easy case, taking into consideration the calculator, which we're going to discuss in a while. Then we used the CRM, and it was assigned by round-robin mode because sometimes it would go into bottlenecks. So you would see a sales team. We could split, for example, 5 or 6 different teams. And technically speaking, sometimes you would see a salesperson or a sales team overloaded while the other team has nothing to do. So it was more of a round-robin mode going to make it more and more fair. And there were new tabs going for the legal, the admin, the customer service to be able to connect some documents and more things to work on. There were later on a brokers portal to be able to technically ally with the brokers to enter some, I would say, new properties or new demands, so they would connect directly, keeping in mind that some things were working, and as you can see, on different databases. I will explain why in a while. There were a procurement pipeline to be able to enter new projects and to purchase new properties because some of the existing properties were already sold out and they needed to refill with new properties. The inventory was something very interesting, connecting the properties with the inventory and at the same time connected with the API to the website so that technically the prices would change from one click from the financial manager. So the financial manager would change the price, and the calculation was done, custom developed by Askatech for that, so that they can calculate the method of how to pay, whether it's cash, by check, or in different currencies. And it's automatically connected to the API of the website, because otherwise try to imagine somebody in the back office changing each and every property price every single day. So it was a very big manual setup. And they were connecting all the related documents. So it was a very interesting part to see whenever you see a property, you don't just see the property itself, but you would see all the related documents like the title deeds, the walkthroughs, the drone, like everything you need, so that you can see it there as if you went to the property itself. So on the other hand, we started a very big recruitment pipeline. So because we couldn't find the right team to be able to do the job, there were hundreds of leads coming every day on the phone. The system was sometimes crashing. So we needed to change that. So we had to recruit, to put in the pipeline 1,200 people from different parts of the region to be able to attract them to the team. And it wasn't an easy process to move them from one company to another. So we did that through a series of webinars. So we did like introductory sessions where people would join a webinar and they get introduced to the company, they get introduced to the job, they get introduced to the scope of work needed, and then we start filtering them through one test after another, and they get automatic grading to be able to really filter from 1,200 in 1 month, reach 50 people. So it was really a nightmare, but that was done in a very nice and simple way. And of course, we did the training academy online with all the tools, the guidebooks, and so on. So we usually train the trainer inside the company, and we need to consolidate the training, the presentations, the videos, etc. So we did not use the e-learning at that part. We used the Odoo documents to consolidate everything. And every time a document is changed, so we just replace the document, and they can re-access the same documents using the same link. So this was a very good brief about what was done. Regarding the reporting, so reporting was happening by segment. So depending on the segments of whether it's male, female, by country, etc. Using the email marketing to retarget different people. So for example, we can start targeting the people who are, for example, above 1 million in terms of budget, and then we go to 750, then to 500, and we start going down until we reach, for example, smaller budgets, which is less than 100, where we could retarget them for buying, for example, properties in Cyprus and in Greece at a lower budget, or at some point also we could make a collaborative investment so that, for example, 5 people having $50,000 would invest together and buy a property for $250, and then they share the return and the profits and so on. We also use events for that to be able to organize the roadshows and the webinars and to bring them to come, especially that happened during the peak of the COVID, where the lockdowns were happening and people wouldn't be able to come to the showroom. So these mainly were the modules, but as a disclaimer, these modules were not on the same database. We were using different databases because while we were working on one module, we would use another module to connect things, to gather the data, and then to import. And so it was working simultaneously to save some budget and to move faster. The challenges, the big challenges that faced the case, one is the lockdown. So when things stopped and people were not able to move on the street, and the concern of the owner was that you cannot purchase a real estate until you step into the property. So you cannot buy a real estate online. And that was a big challenge to change the mentality of all the salespeople. So what we did is we started using the e-learning. So with the e-learning, so people, all the team were trained online, okay, so through different ways, and all the sessions were recorded and available, and nobody would be able to sell any property except if they passed the test and moved to the next level. We transferred all the calls through voice over IP to their mobiles, so people were working from home as if they are working in their offices because they couldn't move, it wasn't allowed. So they had full access from home, and we also created a webinar room inside the office. So we had a room where you close the door, it's fully equipped, isolation, full screen, it's like a mini studio, like you are on a TV show, and people were booking that room, the sales team, so that they were all the time using the room to be able to sell the properties online, and we changed the market. I will tell you why. So the legal documentation. So legal documentation, you know, when you purchase a real estate, you need to check the title deeds and all the documents needed. So what we did to be able to bypass this option, we established a legal office in-house. So you would see all the lawyers sitting in the office, and they would technically get all the legal documentation. They would make a power of attorney to a relative to the person who wants to buy the real estate. We would ship it with UPS or FedEx to send the papers, sign them, and get them back to be able to solve the case. Otherwise, they were not able to come due to the lockdown. Definitely, there were a lot of resistance. So imagine, for example, the sales team where they used to have a sales target of 1.5 of $2 million per month, and now you tell them you have to sell 10 or 15. So it was a nightmare for them. So what we did is we defined the KPIs. We started selling even by building. That was something for them that was, of course, we had an exceptional case in the country, so it wasn't a real scenario, like a normal scenario, I would say. But we started defining the KPIs, and we rewarded accordingly. So every time they would cross the target and achieve more, they would get paid much more. And that was a good incentive to change their mentality. And we even changed the way they take the call. So the sales managers, and that was the biggest resistance, getting to put the sales managers on the phone so they would answer the call, and then they split the case depending on its priority, depending on the budget and depending on the case. Because the people at that time who were purchasing a real estate were not driven only by purchasing a real estate, but they were driven by moving their money out of the banks and transferring them into properties. So people who have big deposits at the banks, they are not easy people to deal with, and they would not really accept a young customer service agent to answer them with a very positive hello and how can I help you, and the traditional way. So we had to put really the sales managers on front as leaders. They would filter in few minutes the call, and then they would delegate to the assistant or to the sales team. Moving from there, I would say that the marketing in times of the Beirut blast, for those of you who know what happened in 4 August in 2020, so it was the biggest or the second biggest explosion around the world. And the country was, it wasn't really a nice thing to do to promote and to advertise, while the campaign was very heavy and very big. So what we did is we shifted the audience, and the campaign, there were 3 different marketing companies or advertising companies working simultaneously, and we started shifting the audience to reach 10 million people outside the country, so all the Lebanese people who are living across the globe, to be able to reach them and help them to move their money out of the banks, especially that they wouldn't be able to come to Lebanon to do the process. So another challenge was the bad leads. So most of the times we reached a level of having 1,000 leads per day on average. So imagine 1,000 leads and filtering 1,000 leads by call or by email or by whatever system. So it wasn't really easy. So what happened is the pixels were connected from the website to the CRM, and you could track the user experience, so you would know exactly where they visited the website before they joined the CRM, and you would have sequential emails, sometimes automatic, sometimes manually, so we could export that list, send them an email newsletter, getting them back to another, I would say, piece of information. And that was a good thing to be able to filter and to narrow down the pipelines from 1,000 to the very interesting ones. And the others, we would retarget them again for other purposes, like the smaller properties and so on. So this is a summary of the plan. So it was marketing to 10 million Lebanese people around the globe, filter an average or reach an average of 290,000 leads, or qualified prospects, I would say, sorry, and generate out of them around 25,000 leads and be able to sell an average of 250 units. So we were leveraging on the process from the aggressive marketing campaign, which was happening from TV to radio to growth marketing to like all over, like anytime somebody would just see the ad, it would just follow them everywhere. And those leads were going to Odoo system to be able to take them from there and channel them in the right place, a fully integrated website, and a very good digital communication tools from the video chat, the webinars, and so on, to be able to sell in bulk. So imagine, for example, people sitting like here, some of them offline, some of them online, attending to see the same property, for example, and then those who are interested would just move to the next step and sign the documents and take it from there. So which is something not very usual to happen in the real estate business, to sell in bulk. The flow was written on mind mapping, and this one on Miro, for example, to define each and every step. So for example, because it wasn't easy to define for each and every salesperson Sometimes they would, I would say, have a different perception on what is a qualified person. So somebody would say, if he has a budget of over 300, I would put him as qualified, while somebody else checks the seriousness and so on. So what we did, we tried to write each and every step and what are the exact requirements to put them in that stage in the pipeline. And those descriptions were translated into the pipeline of the CRM. So whenever they just click there, it would just give them the exact information, which would make it easier for them to know where to put the lead in which stage. End result, and to take it from there, the targets were achieved by 225%, but effectively speaking, it was 400% because it's 225 from the targets that were set, but initially 400% from the initial sales volume in an average time of 6 months. So that was a very good record. They opened the new showroom, which where they were before in small offices. They moved to a bigger showroom and things moved to another level. The top performers who did a very good job were easily spotted through the system and they stayed in the company and they did a very good job. And I would say the mission technically was accomplished, so helping all people to win on different sides. So in summary, I would say that definitely maybe the case would not be the same in different places, but the logic is always the same. So we need to have different, I would say, tools to be able to get there, but the logic is always the same to be able to solve each and every case. The nice thing about Odoo is like, for me, it's like Lego for a child. You know, so it's like you have the Lego, you have all the pieces, but to be able to drag and drop and make your own, I would say, piece of art, it's really very interesting to see how Odoo can help you do that, especially for bigger companies if you have a good partner to do that, or for the out-of-the-box, wherever you can just plug and play and use things where usually it takes, I don't know how many months to be able to reach a level of having an automated system. So with Odoo, it was really a piece of art, grabbing things together in no time and being able to move from a challenge to a big solution, and which was quantified very easily. Last but not least, I would say that strategy and growth, being personally expert in strategy, not in automation, but I would say that strategy and growth without automation is like fitness and health without doing sports. So it doesn't really work. Everybody wants a new strategy. Everybody wants to grow, but nobody is willing to go without. So we need to go through the pain of the system to be able to get there. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. So thank you for your time. I'm open for any questions you may have. Please feel free. Thank you. We did it on time, right?
Thank you, Mr. Dagher, for your presentation. Let's now take some time for your questions. Who has a question for Mr. Dagher? No questions in the room?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So what was the process from the lead gathering from different resources, let's say calls or via the website or different mediums? How would you target people who would see something because you were aggressive on marketing and get them into the CRM itself?
Okay. The challenge was that, the challenge and the opportunity was that all the options were open. So you would see at the same time people on the website, people on the WhatsApp, people on the calls, people visiting the showroom. The challenge was not here, but although we tried as much as possible to direct people on the website and to join the CRM and to follow it from there, but in reality, it doesn't go this way. So the bigger challenge was to convince the sales team that every lead has to enter the CRM. And that was the biggest challenge, not the system. The system, thanks to the Odoo partners, to Shadi, they did a very good job, and everything was just floating amazingly. But the challenge was convincing the sales team itself that if he cannot see that this lead is potential, usually they would drop it. So, but for them, being potential is being able to buy today. For us, being potential is any kind of info, because even if he doesn't buy a $300,000 property, he would be able to buy something else. Or maybe to put his own property as a barter, for example, because that was also an option, and buy something else. So sometimes you need his property even if you do not sell him. So really the biggest challenge was in convincing each and every person in the team, especially the managers, because they wanted to get the targets. So they did not want, so what we did, we had to hire assistant for each and every manager, and her only job was to take every call in parallel with the sales manager. So while he's talking, because he doesn't want to do the manual work, every assistant would just listen and do the data entry on the system. And then from there, assign it and so on, so that we make sure that each and every call, and we were calculating how many leads were coming every day versus how many leads are on the system. And that was the big challenge every single day. But
Amazing.
so you
Thank
can imagine.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Other questions? No. And in the chat there, we don't have questions also, so I don't know if you want to add something to
I would
finish.
like to say thanks to Odoo for the great experience, for the great product, especially what we're seeing now as Odoo 16. I would say that each and every one of us, whether you are an Odoo partner, whether you are a consultant, whether you are a developer, we have a great, I would say, mission to automate more and more businesses, because SMEs don't have access to technology. I remember a few years ago, to have an access to have an ERP was a local one, was like, I would say, not less than $15,000. So now for an average of $100 for the out of the box, sometimes 50, you can have your system working as if you invested in a big system. So that really gives the opportunity for, and kill the excuse for every entrepreneur to take their business to another level. And we all know that without digitalization, without automation, every business would just remain on the lower end. So this is a great opportunity, and I believe each and every person has a big role to play. So let's all do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have. What is the best way to learn about Odoo developments besides the documentation, because he finds that it is somewhat misleading?
I wouldn't have the answer. I'm not a developer myself. But I believe that through the, maybe Shadi can answer. Thank you.
I can answer this question. If you are a developer, you can start first right now on the Odoo the official documentation, technical documentation, and you need to make sure to install and try everything, because I see many of the developers, they watch the videos and they consider the job done. Actually, you need to get your hand dirty. Once you start working, you can look for similar, okay, something very important. Before you later on, you need to watch a little bit about the videos, functional videos of Odoo. Why? Because you start seeing functionality, and if you want to design a solution that is similar to this functionality, you dig into the code where it is implemented, and you can easily read the code of Odoo and create something similar. That's it. Can I ask? Okay, what about you guys? What is your experience with Odoo? No, I mean, what do you do in Odoo? Why are you here? Did you use Odoo before? Yes, about?
We are Odoo partners, so we've been using Odoo for many years now, since version 12, I think. 12.
Any other experience? Excuse me, 2 minutes. Any other experience with Odoo? Okay, I want to emphasize more a little bit about what Jade discussed. In the case of Jade project, they used to have a small timeline of 5 months to capitalize on a $250 million opportunity. And they started with Excel, Google Sheet. When Jade came, they used to have like 15,000 lead, and Google was started to going very slowly, started to get in front of the people. They are not able to get their job done. So they called me on Sunday. I was upset. I was on the bike with my kids, okay? And they told us we need the project to be done by Thursday, okay? So that was the challenge. And the next thing that was turning point in Odoo, that previously we used to work on Odoo 11, 12, and then it came 11, 13. The version 13 or 14, I don't remember, they had a very good version of Studio. So we used to have Odoo development, we used to have a team of 10 developers other than the functional and business consultant. When we did the implementation in a very short period of time, it was, okay, stop. We need to start focusing on Odoo Studio. And if you can do a lot with Odoo Studio, I'll give you a small example about Odoo Studio. So once I told our team we can do a solution this way with Odoo Studio. After 4 hours, I asked them what happened with the solution. It was still not yet done. They were trying to do it programming as a developers, and this is the answer for the developer who wants to learn development. So I said, okay, stop everything. Let's open Odoo Studio, and we've done it. We've done the solution in 5 minutes. Instead of 4 hours, it was done in 5 minutes. Okay, and other questions?
I would like to add something to that. A very quick thank you to all the marketing team of Odoo, because I wouldn't have known about Odoo, especially in real estate, if I haven't seen the ad or the video about Odoo Studio, which was initially done for a real estate company. And this is how I saw it, and this is what I showed to the client, and this is how we got the acceptance to use Odoo. So a big thanks really to the Odoo marketing team, and you're doing really a good job. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Enjoy the experience.